YouTube, I just want to claim fair use, and I just want to bring you this quick little clip from this documentary. It's from actually Infowars.com, and I don't like Alex Jones because I think he's with the Illuminati, but you know, it doesn't matter. If you can sort through his information and get the truth, like the 1 out of every 9 out of 10 parts that he spits that isn't nonsense, then, you know, you're taking it from the source's mouth. So
through the stop motion time-lapse photography by accident was this aerosol spraying that showed up to be a geoengineering type experiment or possible military activity on at least a U.S. scale, possibly a global scale. It's not natural. The clouds are being manufactured. There's fallout from it. It's washing down in the form of rain into the water and the soil, resulting in us drinking whatever the chemicals are in this aerosol spray, and the other byproduct, which is the global dimming, which is also disturbing. So whether it's a solar radiation management or geoengineering,
that's what it is, I'm telling you.
They're
trying to stop something far worse, and they don't care about the runoff that if people get sick from this stuff, they don't care.
An increasing amount of days.
But if they wanted to kill you with toxic poisons in the sky, they'd do it a lot more effectively.
And a subsequent diminishment of my solar uptake, and it increased with every year. So about 2004 is when I really started my investigation as to what could be happening in the skies above, because it was too inconsistent. One day would be a grid pattern, and another day would be virtually nothing, with very similar atmospheric conditions. I've been studying meteorology since the late 90s as well, so clearly there was something happening, and it took no time at all to come to the geoengineering issue and a mountain of data. I researched the subject of geoengineering, which described exactly what I was seeing in the skies above, which was solar obscuration. That's the primary goal of SAG, stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, and SRM, solar radiation management. The primary goal of these patents.
Now, why do you think they're so concerned with that? Maybe because all these monster earthquakes and volcanoes? Oh, maybe. Not because of Nibiru, not because of Planet X.
Clearly, that's what was happening
Sorry.
with the solar PV system. So, seeing the first
Hold
ingredient.
on, let me get these patents, just in case you want to read this stuff. See, they're metallic oxides which reflect and absorb the solar radiation. He's saying it's aluminum oxide here.
That is aluminum. I began to do rain tests.
Now, see, we got a huge hole in our ozone layer, and our magnetosphere is really weak. So all that energy from the sun's boiling our lava and our magma. That's why we're having all these crustal upheavals and sinkholes, you
Subsequent
fools.
tests over the next 5 years escalated as much as 3,450 parts per billion of aluminum in a single rain test. So.
See, they're trying to get you to focus on the small issues like the environmental effects, and they're not worried about the pole shift and all that.
Has done studies on the aerosols from China, and aluminum simply is not amongst them. Metals don't float across oceans with the exception of mercury. Global dimming is a term most are not familiar with, and the latest figures show fully
they can only stop
20%
this
of
for
the
so
sun's
long.
direct rays that reached the planet several decades ago
20%.
no longer do. I mean, this is the biggest elephant in the room, absolutely the biggest in the room. And I believe that if it could be brought to a level where there was enough cover for all the scientists, all the meteorologists, all the biologists, all the academia that knows this is going on, I believe they would pour from every corner. I do, but they would have to have the cover, because I know people with California Department of Fish and Game that are absolutely beside themselves that this is going on.
Aerosol geoengineering looks like it is so cheap that the cost is basically not going to be an issue. That means that implementation decisions will be risk-to-risk decisions. The risk of doing it against the risk
I'd check out the Dane Wigginton
the problem
guy.
of how we govern it, fundamentally harder.
He's a little
but I think
abstract on their doing it to poison us too, though.
The more complicated the environmental effects will look. And that's a good thing, because right now it looks too easy. So I think that if we do more research, we're likely to find out that it's harder and more complicated than we thought, and that the side effects are harder to manage. Of course, the opposite reaction is possible. It's an empirical question how people will actually react to knowledge about this. Another reaction is to say, if these crazy scientists are so concerned about putting CO2 in the atmosphere, they want to think about these things, then that might actually mean we should be more serious about
So
this.
September 2009, it looks
And by the way,
like.
it's not really a moral hazard, it's more like free riding on our grandkids. And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard, it's more like free riding on our grandkids.
Numerous air quality studies, including from CARB, California Air Quality Resource Board.
See, he's too worried about this.
Submicron-sized particulates as being particularly harmful.
And not that you shouldn't be, but
Through all the discussions today,
I'd be more worried about these monster quakes and volcanoes, people, and the sinkholes that are swallowing the cities. I just heard of a city in California getting swallowed like Russia.
toxifying soils and waters.
The collaborators of mine working on the aerosol scheme are actually folks from Carnegie Mellon who focused on human health impacts. And while we haven't published it, that was the very first thing we did, was do the order of magnitude calculation.
So who knows what would happen if they didn't stop this and they let all the solar radiation in.
And for aluminum or other particles, there are a lot of toxicological things that need to get looked at seriously.
Geoengineers now are moving very quickly to get legislation passed to spray the primary ingredients into our sky, knowing the damage that we have had not only to human health, we've seen aluminum-related illnesses go through the roof, but what free-form aluminum oxide does to our environment.
See, they're trying to
is
make up a new
devastating.
atmosphere, and it's not going to
It
work.
literally destroys crops, it destroys forests.
The only way for that
It
to happen is
destroys our
for
Earth.
Mother
We have
Nature
Earth
to do
decades
it
being molested.
with a super
Our ozone
volcano.
layer is being shredded from top to bottom.
Chemtrails change the amount of sunlight and energy that
I should
pierces
have went
the
back. What did that patent say? We think it can happen,
Ozone
but
layer is being
we'll
shredded
see.
from top to bottom.
chemtrails change the amount of sunlight and energy that pierces the atmosphere. I mean, it's in several articles that I can show you. So the phenomena of changing how much sun gets and energy gets into our atmosphere that heats it up is printed every day. It's just printed in such a way as to not
Sorry, my
say this is
battery's
a
dying.
tool for climate change. It's saying it is in fact a phenomena that will in fact change the climate by reducing the amount of sun that gets into our atmosphere. Geoengineering is one of the things that are on the table, and it'll probably be.
See, I don't know how people can deny that
pretty
it
obvious to everybody.
exists. You can watch it happen in front of your face. It doesn't even take an hour. I've seen it down here in Florida in like 20 minutes, man.
Look at this photograph of the sky. I thought that the clouds looked a little strange.
I showed my mother, she's like, oh, it's just pilots
But then when I saw a
flying in
plane go through
formation
the
or
cloud
something. Like, I'm like, come on.
and leave a void in the cloud that lasted for half an hour or so. Planes don't leave holes in clouds. They're just not clouds.
When you begin to introduce clouds to the sky, you're changing how much energy from the sun reaches the Earth's surface. That's a given. You're increasing.
Yeah, that's why we're having all this
Had a
freaking
marked
extreme
increase
weather.
of high cloud cover.
That's all a very
It's enough
intricate and
for
delicate
clouds in the last
system.
30 years. The quotient, or the ratio between low clouds and high clouds, is nearly double the number of high clouds. And what you're doing is trapping heat. You're keeping some out, but when it comes to nighttime, you're pulling a blanket over. All right, let's just take a summer afternoon in LA. We have a high cloud bank come in. It won't come in the morning, it'll come in the afternoon. So we get all of that morning sunshine, we get all of that midday sunshine, the clouds come in, the sun begins to set in the west, the clouds thicken up. You've already got your heat in for the day. And then the clouds stick around for 70% of the night, and the heat stays. And so in late 2004, I started buying cameras. I bought 2 little webcams and then 2 other mini DV Canon cameras. Little tripods, stuck them out around the house. And then I bought 2 computers and time-lapse software. And so I could get north, south, southwest, and then east. I was hoping to catch movement of clouds.
See, when I grew up, global warming was from chlorofluorocarbons and destroying the ozone, which is what we've done. I don't buy all this CO2 bullcrap, although we did destroy the rainforest too,
And what
so...
happened was one plane was coming along, and it was a relatively dry day in April. A plane would come along and only a little bit of the trail would stick. Only a part of it remained visible. What was curious is that another plane came along and hit precisely the middle of that segment. And I'm like, that's odd. And then another plane came along and hit the end at an angle, not bisecting or perpendicular, but off at an angle. Then I thought the light went off. There's something they're doing with
Look at that.
It is established.
666. I told you, Alex
Not
Jones.
bisecting or perpendicular, but off at an angle. Then I thought the light went off.
Told you that, fool. I got pictures of Alex Jones doing that too, and he's got a Skull and Bones shirt on, so I'm going to do a presentation on that soon
There's
enough.
something you're doing with geometry. It is establishing and setting up these resonances, these zones. Because what I had observed with the time-lapse camera is that the atmosphere had literally been layers. Each 2, 3, 4, 5, 8,000 feet is probably variable from day to day. And the clouds would come up and then literally be chopped off. But that would only happen after a plane had come through. And then the storm would collapse. And you can see it today. You can step out anytime you see thunderstorms beginning to go, the planes will be there.
I'll have to check that out.
The sun. The sun is the power source for this solar system. The sun drives the weather.
The sun. Gee, are you getting it yet?
I was asked by my employer, Environment News Service.
You people really need to learn about
Worldwide
subliminal
service dealing with
hints.
environmental issues. To have a look at a VHS videotape. When I viewed the tape, I started laughing, frankly. I thought, here's an hour and 10 minutes of shaky video footage of contrails. After 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I stopped laughing because as a former pilot and ocean navigator, I was well familiar with normal contrails, and what I was seeing on this videotape was not acting like a normal condensation trail. The trails coming out behind multiple airplanes, instead of dissipating, were lingering, spreading across the sky until a blue sky day had turned into a milky, murky overcast.
And that's funny how they always turn that gray hazy thickness after a CME from the sun.
I said that these
Telling you
mysterious
people.
contrails were sickening Americans. The illness patterns coincided precisely with...
They want people to be so scared of them and that people get sick that they want to hide the real reason they're doing it.
Unusual activity, aerial activity in the sky. They would start to cough, they would get asthma attacks, severe enough to send them to emergency rooms. Doctors were telling the New York Times, we've never seen anything like this. People were dying.
This is a worldwide event. Why would they do that much effort just to kill us when they could nuke us?
Disease Control went on record, said, we really don't know what this is.
Makes no sense.
It's not the flu. They called it an epidemic of mortalities. That was their phraseology for this. This is 98, 99, and 2000, the winter months. This was reported in the United States, Canada. In Peterborough, Ontario, the hospital there had 307 acute asthma admissions in a single day. In Birmingham, England, 8,000 people died in 3 weeks, mostly elderly. It was in all the papers, BBC. They were using meatpacking trucks as portable morgues. It was very drastic.
All right, I'm running out of time here
All I
in a
can say as a
minute.
journalist is this was coincident to videotape and visual reports of tic-tac-toe patterns and unusual gridding in the sky. Exactly coincided. So very dangerous. They're very dangerous program.
I'm standing on the roof of my building in the Bronx, New York. And as you can see, the entire sky, as far as you can see, is blanketed.
I filmed this personally, and like I said, every time we have a huge CME, this is what happens.
Stretching all the way over to
So it seems to correspond with the solar activity, like any major flare equals a major chemtrail day. I'm telling you, man, I have sound theory
There's
here.
another one being made as we speak. Saturday, March 10, 2012.
But I don't know for sure, like I said. But it's not to hide Nibiru or any of that, so I'm sorry. You people are looking for something that's not there, unfortunately.
And look at this. You can see this
By the way,
chemtrail
this was in my recommended for me video box.
falling onto the ground.
If you want to look at it, it's called Uppers. I don't even know why. I don't watch any Alex Jones at all, so why this was in my
See how it's
box.
dissipating at the very end there.
Since I'm about out of time here, I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope you found it
Geoengineers are
informative.
proposing spraying 10 to 20 million tons of toxic aluminum and other substances into our sky for the stated goal of cooling our planet.
So let me distinguish these two different kinds